and the kids can go in there as well, and we kind of rotate them so everybody gets a chance to go in those rooms. And one of the big things that I stress to the kids is not only is this helping them become better readers because they're reading to somebody that is not judging them, it also helps our animals because in that process, those animals learn to come up to the front of the cage. They learn that people come to the cage, they should come up there. We had one cat, after our first session, this cat would constantly hide underneath the blanket in the cage, would never come out to anybody. And one of the kids I suggested, I said, won't you sit and read to this kitty? He's kind of nervous, you know, maybe you'll help him be more calm. So the student sat down and started reading, and the cat literally like peeked out from underneath the blanket and actually came out. And that student was so excited because the cat actually was responding. It's crazy, but the kittens sometimes will actually look at the book and look at the pictures like they're actually following along with the kids while they're reading. This program is super important to me. I love to read. My son loves to read. So I thought that, you know, bridging that between the students and the animals will help not only the kids, but our animals. And it also helps the kids in their community as well. You know, not every kid loves to read. A lot of the schools now do require them to read for like 30 minutes every day. And this program really helps them with that as well. So now we're in the process of rolling the program out. So originally it was just for classes to come in and scout groups, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, different things like that. But now we've had such a huge response with it that we are in the process of opening the program up to where the kids come in to do an orientation that's about an hour and a half long. Once they go through that orientation, they can come in any time that we're open to read to the animals. So they won't have to be with a group. They can come in individually. And we've seen a huge response for that. We had our first orientation last month. I had originally said, you know what, I'm going to limit it to about 20 kids, and I had like 60 applications. So I was going to do the orientations every other month. I'm doing them every month now, and I'm opening it up to about 25 kids because we've had such a huge response. They get, for a certain number of hours, there's different levels where they'll get prizes. There's shirts that have our reading program logo on it, that our original kids came up with that logo. They had a contest. There's books that they can get, bookmarks, bags, different things like that. So it's encouraging them to read, but it's also helping them become better readers because that's the most important thing. So what we do though is teachers can bring in their classes. They can come in for, usually it's about an hour, hour and a half, just because, I mean, I work at the Humane Society, so I know how hard it is to stay focused when you see a bunch of like kittens and puppies. So when the kids come in to read, really, we want them to be reading, but anything more than a half hour is hard to keep them focused. So it's usually about an hour, hour and a half. We, you know, talk to them about the proper way to take care of animals. We take them on a tour of our building as well, and then they get split up to read to the animals. We do also offer, other than just our reading program, we do offer humane education for classes to come out to us to do volunteer projects, tours of the buildings, and then we also offer where I will go out to classes as well. And that we not only do this for elementary, but middle school and high school. And we also have a Tots and Tails program for kids 3 to 5. It's once a month. They come with their parents most of the time. And then I read a story to them, and then they do a craft that relates to that story, and then they get time to interact with an animal as well. It's really important for the younger kids as well to start reading when they're younger. So then when they get older, that's not such a hassle trying to get them to read. So that's why we've kind of started that program as well. And we've had probably about 6 to 7 kids that have come every single month that we've started that. And it's almost like their little group that they come. We don't usually fill up for that, but you know, as long as we're getting those ones in there that are coming, then that's all that I ask for really. So, but all of our programs are free. We don't charge for me to come out. We don't charge for you to come to do field trips or anything like that. Now with our reading program, for the classes, it is free. We will pass out those applications to all those kids that come. So if they're looking to come back and do that orientation, then they can do that. And when they come back to the orientation, we do charge $5 for that, just to cover, you know, shirts and the prizes and things like that. But all of our programs are free.
The field trips, do they have to go through the orientation program? I'm sorry, is that okay? Yeah, the field trips, do they have to go through the orientation program? I was kind of confused on that. Or do they do it when they come individually?
Yeah, so when they come in as like a class, they just get kind of like a shortened version of our orientation. But then if they're looking to come back, then they would have to go through the full orientation. Like if they were coming back by themselves, they would have to go through the full orientation.
What do you need from the school as far as waivers for us? What is normal? Has any other schools done it as a field trip?
Yeah, we actually, the volunteer that's a teacher at Holly Middle School, her students come twice a year, once at the beginning and once at the end of the year. And I don't know as far as what she does for that, but usually what we look for is like for us to be able to take pictures. And they sit outside of the cages, so there's not generally a risk of any kind of bites or anything like that.
Unless there's allergies from some of our students.
Yeah, and you know, if we do have maybe a student that's allergic to cats, then we just have them read to the dogs the whole time, so it's two separate areas.
Who provides the books, Mary?
We do. We have a lot of books that we've had donated.
I see them there.
Yeah, we have a ton of books that we've had donated, but we always take more donations because that's how the Humane Society runs, is on donations. So we do have 2 bookshelves full of books, and we try to rotate those out. And we do have them separated as far as reading levels as well. So we do have adult books too, because when the kids come in to read to the animals, when they go through that orientation, the adults do have to stay with them when they come in individually. That way, if the adults want to read to the animals, they can read to the animals at the same time. So now for our field trips, we do ask that if there's a large group of students, we do ask for, you know, a few adult volunteers to come in as well, to stay with those students and make sure that they're staying on task and reading. So
you're developing reading skills in the kids, compassion for animals, and you're even adopting out a few more animals now, I'm sure.
Yes, yeah, that's a big thing. Yeah, we have a lot of we have a lot of groups when they come in for things like this. The kids are always like, I want to adopt this cat. And I'm like, come back later with your parents and we'll adopt that cat to you. So yeah, it's a really good program. Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, what would you suggest the recommended age group that we would maybe bring on a field trip? What's the target kind of age? I mean, because a lot of our kids are really at that learning to read stage in first grade.
Yeah.
I mean, is there an age limit or something that you look for in that?
No, we're open to any grades. You know, if it's like a high school class and if they want to come in and read, they can, or if they want to come in and do like a volunteer project, we do have a couple high schools that will come in and do that from time to time. So what they'll do is they'll come in, go on a tour of our building, and then I will come up with some kind of project for them to do. Like just earlier today, I had a Girl Scout group that came in, and they made cat toys, and then they got to pass the cat toys out to the animals.
Nice.
Cool.
So,
Can I ask how many kids, if we did a field trip, how many kids at a time? Do you have an ideal number, or what's your minimum and what's your maximum?
Usually 25 is good, because when we start, we're in a smaller room. Plus our cat rooms are a little bit smaller, so if there's any more than that, it does get kind of cramped, especially because we're open to the public while all this is going on. So we also have people walking through. So 25, 30 would be the absolute max. And then with that, we would need, you know, at least 3 to 4 volunteers or adults that will be there at the same time to kind of keep everybody on task too.
So I don't know if you were here earlier, but we have a family resource night coming up on April 28th.
Okay.
And we'll have an opportunity for community groups to come in and talk about some of their programs.
Yeah.
It sounds like you might be a good fit for that,
Yeah.
especially with the focus on the reading
Absolutely.
program, in case families want to go there and take their children.
Yeah, for sure.
So do you have contact information, or
Yeah.
can we get your contact information and we'll include you in that invitation?
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no
Thank you.
problem.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Yeah,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Next, we have the Neola policy package.
So, passed out policies to you, gosh, it's been probably over a month now. So, the plan here for this particular policy package, which is volume 34, is to try and get this package voted on at our April meeting. So this would be a second reading. A second reading, of course, doesn't mean that we read it at the meeting, but you certainly
Thank you.
have had access to that. I do want to pass out just a couple things that, that's one whole packet, so I'm passing it in a batch. I apologize in advance. These are my chicken scratch notes, but I wanted you to get it in your hands. I'll have a much more polished version of this.
No, that's yours.
It's one,
It's one whole packet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we go to our April board meeting, I will have an actual, for a final read, we'll have a much more polished version. And the other thing that I would reference would be the actual spreadsheet that I use for the policies that, you know, you've all been given. So there's a couple things here that are in the chart, but I wanted you to have my notes on it. The Student Board of Education representative, Jacobs, worked hard on helping to inform some of those policies, but our policy committees worked through some of those things. Right now we're looking at a policy statement that's there. I've also included some administrative guidelines that would be informative of how we would address it. We have a policy statement in here that's going to go on policy 6460, 6440, and 6320 that references service contracts. There's no policy for service contract agreements. We all agreed after discussion about the fact that we need to have a policy in there for larger contracts that would come to the board for approval. 6440 cooperative purchasing. There's a couple paragraphs in there that are incongruent with the language that Troon gave us, and so we'll want to have that there too. So you have those for your review. Obviously, if you have anything to discuss tonight, you're welcome to do that. But for volume 34, I'd like to try and, at our next meeting, I will have from the policy committee recommendations on any different options that are there. You might have some things to discuss, so it's really a more extensive conversation for a final read, and then we'll know exactly what is being recommended and voted on for the action item at our April meeting. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Anybody? And as always, if you have questions in advance, you can certainly ask one of the policy committee members or Ben. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now we have a bond update.
So a few items to update you on. We had a steering committee today. The elementary schools are moving along very well. I've had some one-on-one meetings with each of you. If you would like to set up a time to go and actually walk through some of the construction, I actually have hard hats. We can put on the hard hats and go and check out some of these spaces. And our elementaries are moving along very well. Next week, they're actually going to start putting up the drywall in Moorish, and then they're going to be moving to Deacon Elm shortly thereafter. Cyrene is moving ahead quickly, and actually Gaines is kind of starting to leapfrog some of them in their office because they've had heat. So being able to do the demo and all of that at Gaines has been great. So the elementary schools are moving along at a great speed. The plan for our April meeting, and I'll have a better idea on timeline, if we can have them by April, that's the goal, to have some bids out for the elementary site work packages, because we want to get those parking lots accomplished before school starts. The stadium is going to be starting demolition as early as tomorrow. They've already been out there doing all of the site work, scoping it out, finding out what needs to be done. We had some discussions today about them starting as early as tomorrow. And as long as the weather holds, they're talking about the possibility of even demoing and starting to dig up, doing the site work, which is going to create a large visual impact in this area. I'll also let you know that the middle school package is designed. It's in the hands of the construction team, and we're looking to hopefully bid that out in the very near future. The high school design is well underway, and so we're looking at 3 separate spaces at the high school. In the original bond application, we had talked about the possibility of doing an addition to the locker rooms. After the contractors got in there, our locker rooms are at the high school. They're very old, and they're actually almost a split level. So at the gym floor level, you go down to the boys' locker room, and you go up to the girls' locker room. So we realized without all of those stairways and actually putting them on one level that we didn't need the square footage to be building out and doing an addition there. So that's going to be great. It's going to help us save a little bit of money. Certainly the athletic area there is going to be addressed. The high school main entry for the secure entry is going to be addressed, and then also creating the connection between the science wing and the PAC wing for the STEM edition is going to create the traffic pattern. Instead of having a dead-end hallway, it's going to create a much better flow through the building. So those projects are already well underway and being designed. We have user groups meetings, which is where we meet with the different constituents who are in those areas to get feedback on the different considerations that the design team needs to have. We did get a bid for the roof at Deke Elementary School as well as Gaines Elementary School. Those are in your packets for consideration tonight, and we are staying under budget at the elementary schools to this point, and so construction is moving ahead at a good pace. Anybody have any questions?
Question.
Yes.
With construction potentially happening soon in the athletic field, is there potential for traffic impact for drop-off buses, students?
Sure.
Just a
Yeah, so
consideration.
the contractors that come and work on the schools, they tend to be contractors that work on schools, and so we have contractors that kind of know the drill, and so we're being told at this point that they should be able to work around our student pickup drop-off times and traffic patterns, and so they make accommodations for that. So for example, we have electricians at the elementaries that have been coming in, and they're working afternoon shifts. They're coming in after school's out. They're working in the afternoon evenings, and then by the time the teachers and kids come the next day, they don't even know anyone's been there. So it's a pretty amazing system because they kind of work around that. So I don't want to say it's not possible, because it
Right.
certainly could be as they get into it. But if it is going to be, we're going to be notifying parents and kids.
My biggest comment would be that it's the high school where we have student drivers as
Yes.
opposed to, we would hope, more cautious adults at the elementary
Yeah.
schools coming in and out of a construction zone.
And one of the things that is obviously somewhat of a downside to doing this is that you have to build it sometime.
You're right.
And in order for it to be ready for the soccer and football season in the fall, we have to start building that now. And so our spring sports programs have been charged with, having to compete off-site. So, track and lacrosse and soccer, soccer to a large extent is, obviously here and able to still compete, but anything that would have been on the track or in the field there is going to have to move for the spring season. And so there's been a lot of notifications to the athletes and parents going out about that, but that's just one of the downsides of construction and kind of the pains of getting through it, but it'll be well worth it in the end. So
Any other questions for Ben? Okay, thank you. All right, on to our board action items. We happen to have on our agenda this evening SCEA employment.
all right, I'm going to ask Mr. Corcoran to come stand up, and like to introduce Mr. Sean Corcoran. And I am very excited that Mr. Corcoran has decided to come to Swartz Creek and to have an interest to really make an impact here. So Mr. Corcoran is actually a social studies teacher by his background was in social studies, and I, in a previous district, actually had the opportunity to work with him a little bit. He went on to work in adult mental health and actually had kind of a big change and realized how much he enjoyed working with that population. Went back and got his master's degree in special education and now has an emotionally impaired endorsement. He has been doing a long-term position for us as we've had a need and a retirement as well. And so it's everybody that talks about Mr. Corcoran, including not only the interview committee, but the teachers that he's worked with speak extremely highly of him. He's worked at Gaines, he's worked at Elms, and he's got a lot of versatility even to work in upper grade levels as he's got experience with high school students. So I think it's a really exciting opportunity. So I don't know if you have anything you'd like to share.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic opportunity this last year, working in both Gaines and Elms. I'm very fortunate for the opportunity to go back in education, and I'm looking forward to making a difference, a positive difference, going forward.
How long did you work in adult mental health?
2 years. So I worked at Brighton Center for Recovery as a bachelor level therapist.
Wow.
And I also worked in our children's program, which was designed by Betty Ford.
Wow. We need more of you. Many, many more of you. Okay, any questions for Sean? You want to talk to a little bit about yourself, or?
Well, I definitely have a passion for education. My mom's a teacher. She's taught at Heartland for, I think, 20 years. I was fortunate to get a lot of opportunities to teach, work with kids. I was the pool director there for 3 years in Heartland. I was always interested in psychology and mental health, so I went on and tried that out. And working with the kids in the program, they were the children of our patients. I found that I really missed being back in the classroom and felt like I could make a difference in a different way rather than just doing therapy. And so I'm really excited to be back and working with kids again.
Thank you. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have everybody. Okay, any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the employment of Sean Corcoran for elementary special education teacher at Elms Road as presented. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Welcome, Sean.
I was like,
Congratulations.
bubble bump.
Yeah.
Congratulations, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
being
much.
so patient.
Congratulations.
Thanks for your patience for being here. All right, moving on, we have the need for a GISD annual budget hearing representative. Who was that last year?
That was me.
That was you.
Mhm.
You shouldn't have said that. Okay. So I'll give you right of first refusal.
That's all right. I don't mind doing it.
Okay, well, I think we have a volunteer.
So moved.
We also,
Alicia, do you want to try it this year? I'll offer that up.
we also have to have a delegate, an alternate rather, for our delegate. Anybody interested? It's
I will
on,
be your alternate.
you want to be the
I
alternate?
will be your alternate.
Okay,
Thank you.
very
My
nice.
calendar is amazingly free today.
Okay, so we have 2 volunteers, unless I hear others. Need a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Mike and Tony, any comments or questions? All right, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve Jessica for delegate and Alicia alternate for the 2020-2021 annual budget meeting at the Genesee Intermediate School District at 5 p.m. on Wednesday, April 29th, 2020, as presented. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ladies, for your service. The developmental reading assessment kit purchase that was in our packet.
This is a purchase that is has been bid out. We have the documentation there from Chris in your packet. So the developmental reading assessment is DRA is the name for it. It's a program that's used to be able to identify reading levels of children. It's an elementary aged assessment, And it's an assessment that we use to determine for students who need to have further intervention in reading, but also to develop a score to identify where their reading level is. We have been operating with what's called there was DRA1, we were using DRA2, or currently using DRA2, and so this is the newest version of the assessment, DRA3, and that is provided by, the lowest bidder was Pearson, and so we're recommending the purchase of this. It is allocated in the budget, but we wanted to recommend that for your consideration tonight.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Tony, Jessica, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approve the purchase of the developmental reading assessment kits from NCS Pearson for a total price of $30,854 as presented. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Alright. Oh, that's a good point. We should do roll call. Thank you for pointing that out. It is a financial purchase. If you would mind, Joanne? Mike?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Carrie? Yes. Tony?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And Brian?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay, now we have the approval of the Deep Gaines Elementary roofing bid.
So this is, the bids are in your packet. The lowest bidder was the Tri-County Roofing, so we're recommending for both projects, Tri-County get the award. This particular project, Gaines, is a re-roofing of a large portion of their building, but primarily it's the gymnasium, which we've had leaks on for a long time. That was called out in the bond application. We also have Deep, which is a complete re-roof of the whole building.
Are there any other questions for Ben?
How many square feet is it, Ben? Do you know that?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head.
It
I
says
apologize.
75,000, no?
I just. So they're gonna re-roof Deke.
Yeah, Deke is a complete re-roof. Gaines is primarily the gymnasium space.
I know that this company's, thorough. It just seems like a lot of money to put a new rubber roof on. I just wanted the square footage. I know you probably don't have that.
Yeah, I can get that to you. I know
No
that
worries.
the,
How many bids did they get? 4 or 5?
I think they got 6,
6.
Five. There's five listed.
5.
maybe 5, yeah. So,
What was the, some of the other bids were much higher, I see.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and in terms of, and Jim is actually on vacation. He normally comes anytime we have one of these because he could answer that question. So
Yeah.
I could get him. He will be here at our next one.
It doesn't matter, I suppose.
But it
Seems
is,
like a lot of money. But the other bids are higher.
yeah. But the one thing that you bring up a good point. There's a Duralast product, and then there's a which is I think kind of the rolled rubber roof, and then there's a more advanced technology, and I'm not going to do it justice if I describe it, but
Right.
it's something about not having seams in the roof or something like that. So, but that I believe I do believe it is spec'd out to be the longer warranty product.
That was my next question. How long are they warranting this roof? Or do
I-
you know that answer?
I don't know the answer, but I know that it's significantly longer than the original. There were a couple different options we could go with, and we decided to go with the product that had the longer warranty. And I don't want to say it because I might be wrong, but I will ask Jim to follow up, and when he comes to our next meeting, I'll ask him to report on that too.
I don't know if they can last 20 or 25 years. I think about us spending money and then the bond still being in place,
Mhm.
and then the roof goes out, and then what do we do 15 years from now or 20 years from now?
Right.
That's why I don't know if it's a 25-year or 30-year. I don't even know if they can make it that long on River. I don't think they can, but
Yeah.
that's
I
my
would-
question.
I can find out for
Thank
sure.
you.
Yep.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Tony, Brian, any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approved the 2018 bond projects Deke Gaines Elementary roofing rebid to Tri-County Roofing for $450,350 as presented. Joanne, would you like to do a roll call,
Sure.
please?
Alicia?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, thank you. Motion passes. All right, now we have an opportunity for public comments. If anybody would like to address the board, please stand, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening. Is my time start now?
If you want to let us know your name just officially, Christina.
Yeah, so my name is Christina Zerka. And I just wanted to point out a few things today that happened at our PAC that are really exciting. So we hosted, as usual, districts for our, not our solo ensemble, but our festival for choral, not band. And Mr. Michael mentioned our band did really well, and so did our choir. So Varsity Madrigals, Contiamo, and several students made it to states with a 1. And that is really awesome. Like 1 is the highest you can get, so they're all moving on. And we've done this for several years. So big credit to Mr. Luke. Also, just want to let you guys know we get praise for the PAC all the time and how lucky we are to have it, and we truly are. And then the next question I had is actually about what Mr. Menka brought up at the beginning of the meeting. So it's about our current situation with the just hearing things from the governor and so on. So if, and God forbid this happens, something were to happen and seniors we're graduating soon, would everything be postponed if school, I'm just talking worst case scenario here.
Yeah.
So do you guys know if seniors would graduate later? Would they still graduate on the same date?
Yeah.
So on and
Yeah.
so forth.
A lot of that's going to depend on the guidance that we get. So we're
Okay.
not going to do anything to put anybody in jeopardy or at risk.
Of course.
But certainly we know how important that time is for all of you that
Mhm.
are getting ready to graduate. So it's definitely something that's on our radar.
Okay.
We don't have any plans or indications that there's going to be that type of recommendation at this time.
Of course, I'm
but
just talking worst
but
case
yeah,
scenario.
but in that scenario, we would do what we would have to do to protect the public and you guys from anything that would be a health risk. So that's something that certainly would be there. What I can tell you is that you're going to graduate. So.
Alright, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Breaking news, you're going to graduate.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks, Christina.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I think I'm the only one here. My name's Chad Gibson. I work for AT&T, and I am a Swartz Creek alumni and parent. I just got a new position in AT&T, and it's a huge company, so you don't know everything that you have to offer until you get to different positions, of course. And I came across a couple things that I thought were very, very interesting to me. I put GPS watches on my kids because I'm terrified of the very worst thing that could possibly happen. From those watches, they can hit a button, call 911 if the worst possible thing happened. Well, then I get into this new position, I find out that schools actually have access to getting free phones. As many of them as you guys want, with no monthly charge, no upfront cost for the phones, none of it. The only cost comes into play is if they are used, and then they are 6 cents a minute. So, for instance, you could have a phone in every classroom, or on every staff member, or whatever. They're just basic little flip phones, no cameras, so you don't gotta worry about any kind of, parents questioning pictures being taken or anything. But being a parent in the community, I immediately thought, well, it's a great idea. If there's not a cost associated with it, why wouldn't you? And then it must have been fate that I was here, because I hear you guys talking about buses and tracking buses and parents being able to check an app to track the bus to see the progression of the bus. I've been in that situation where I'm wondering, okay, well, where's my kid? I found out today we actually have something that can do that in this new spot that I'm at, because we deal with government and schools and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, and does anyone have any questions or?
Does a family have to have your service in order to access that?
No, it'd be an app. So the school would actually carry the service on their
Yeah.
buses, and then the parents could just download the app for free and track.
Well, I got a question, Chad, when you guys are done. I don't know, is there any more questions yet?
Go ahead.
So if we, in an emergency, well, the kids all have their phones on them, right? They're all allowed to have them?
They are a lot,
If they have 'em.
they do have them.
Right, okay. I just thought that it would be nice, instead of everybody calling 911 in our emergency plan, if we had an AT&T phone at the teacher's desk. And if they get trapped in a class or something, they can use that phone as a designation in case something happens. You got 42 people calling, they can pick up that phone, and that phone's just designated to call 911, which most cell phones do, even if they're not activated. But they have that, would probably be a little bit better service. And then they could call and say, hey, we're trapped in classroom 106. We need help down here with all the confusion, and maybe have dedicated numbers so 911 would know that.
That's exactly.
Can we do that?
That's exactly what this would be.
Okay, that's what
So
I'd like to do that.
like you could have, like I was just at another school over.
Chad, I'm sorry to
I'm in
interrupt you,
my
but could you follow up with Mr. Minka? Would you
Absolutely.
be able to do that?
Mhm.
So, just to be fair, so,
Yeah, it's
I
all right.
appreciate that though.
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing it forward.
Concerned
very much.
parent, and I immediately thought of my
Thank
kids.
you.
So.
Yeah, thank
No,
you
it's
so
great.
much.
Thank
It
you.
is
Thank you
great.
for staying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We
All
should
right.
probably give him an extra minute because we asked questions. I took a minute of his time, but yeah, I feel, sorry, Chad.
Oh, you're fine.
Looked up.
Thank you.
No, but we do appreciate it, so if you can follow up with Ben,
I'll
that'd
stick
be
around
great.
if you, after. If you
Yeah. if you don't
Okay.
mind, that'd be great.
So now we have comments and questions from the board. Oh, no? Yeah?
I have one.
I was gonna tell Ben to ask him if a charger comes with it. Might be the task.
I'll write it down.
I would like to congratulate the high school boys swim team, the Swartz Creek Flushing team. Number one, they came in second at Metros, and their coach was voted, Coach Taylor Katermis was voted Coach of the Year through the Metro League, and they had a qualifying team make it to states, a relay team, and our diver, Ethan Petit, who's from Flushing, also made it onto states in his freshman year. To me, one of the most wonderful things about that team, and I know our hockey team is a cooperative team, is that I would think that it does a wonderful job teaching good sportsmanship because it is a joint team. And I just want to give them a shout out. And I believe I also heard the bowling team made it to states
They
as
did.
well,
Yep,
right?
they did,
So,
and a couple individuals. too.
yeah, so congratulations to them as well.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Oh,
Go ahead.
comments?
Go ahead.
I wanted to follow up on the Eco Club. I've always thought this, that somebody needs to do something on a mass scale across our district, to do biodegradable, but also recycling. Do we recycle within
We
our
do.
buildings? Okay. So I'm just throwing it out there that, especially as they said, at least from their, research, that biodegradable really wouldn't cost that much different to make a switch. If we can put that back to our food service team to evaluate, I think we need to do some due diligence of, being a little bit more eco-friendly. And then do we have, water fountain, upgrades? That's not part of our current,
We have them in
project.
some of the buildings,
Okay.
the bottle fillers.
Yeah.
And they're kind of systematically replacing those.
okay,
Mhm.
as they're replaced. That's basically what we did at work. We needed to replace some, so
Yeah.
when we replace them, we
Yeah.
do the nicer, fancier ones.
Mhm.
So, if we can move that faster in some areas, it might be good to consider.
I do have one question. I don't know if we got a finance or we got it at the steering committee today. I saw that the fiber cable has been, there was a bill in there for fiber cable for $23,000 for the cable.
Mhm.
And do we have cameras at the cage?
We don't, we're gonna get them though.
Okay, are they going to be installed by the time you move there?
I would think so, yes. Yeah. We've had fiber to the cage on our project list for quite a while.
Right.
And it was in the, yeah, so that will help definitely allow us to get phones out there that actually are on the district servers and everything else. So, yep, cameras are a part of that.
Good.
Anything else?
If I could, Ms. Gardner, you asked about recycling at the high school.
Mhm.
From what I understand, right now the Eco Club is promoting a paper recycling program, and so they go around and collect bins with paper from each of the classrooms. But it seems like we are lacking a plastic recycling program. There are several teachers that collect plastic bottles from students. They have a bin up there, and the Eco Club comes around and they say, "I'm sorry, we don't have a program for this right now." So maybe Mr. Meinke, that's something to consider.
Yeah,
Plastic
that-
recycling.
yeah. It comes with quite an extensive cost, I just know that by experience, but that's what I was looking at, more than just paper, I think, but just an all-encompassing recycling program.
We go through a lot of water bottles.
Right. I have one question to the board and to Ben. What are we gonna do about the dog rating program? We never took any action on it. I mean, we heard the presentation, but we just, I mean.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna follow up with her, and so
Okay.
the plan would be to, I think, I was excited to hear that she can take kids that are under third grade, cause a lot of our kids that are struggling to start reading, that's when we wanna catch them with the third grade reading bill.
Right.
But I think there's actually application for all ages of kids after hearing her talk, so, I'm gonna meet with the principals on Friday, and then try and connect them with the information so that we can get them into that.
One class from each school to start out with maybe, and I would like the high school kids to go. I mean, I really think that it would be good, beneficial, they get to interact, and then maybe they'll take some dogs home too.
Yeah,
I mean, the high
absolutely.
school kids probably have a little bit more
Yeah.
influence with their parents than a second grader.
Yeah, no, I think so, and I think having the information, I can
Yeah.
pass that on to the kids or to the principals about the different age kids. But no, I think it's a fantastic idea. I have a feeling that there's going to be a pretty high demand for it, so it's just really going to be about how many of our kids can they actually take. You know, I mean,
Can we do this program, do you feel?
Oh, absolutely.
Logistically, it'll be okay?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yep. We do a lot of field trips, so it's just basically a field trip, and you know,
And a
parent
free
permission.
field trip is even better.
Yeah, you know,
I mean,
parent permission, and you know,
Yeah,
and
just a
remove-
waiver to protect the children
Yep.
that are going there, so nobody's allergic. and-
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally, we didn't get a chance to really thank them individually, so I'd like to thank Michelle Corbett for bringing her team, Mr. Murphy, Mrs. Loader, Mrs. Francis, Kamila, Josh, Jayla for the web leadership, Lorraine for her attendance program, Mrs. Swales, Mrs. Bealby, and the amazing inventors, Vance and Jaden, who we will see in the future, I am sure. So thank you to all of you. So with that, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
We are adjourned.
I thought I was gonna have to fight some people for that. Where's your report?
Oh my God, 19 text messages.
Sorry, Mike. Sorry about me. I'm moving with the bags.
Yep, I have the stuff I want, I keep.
We already have that. in the spring, we have that. So, the sprint one is.
Thank you, Chad.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, I get it. Everybody wants to go.